Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, America has just broken an all-time record that was set in October of 1982. And unfortunately, this is not a good record. This is not a record that gets you in the Guinness Book of World Records. It's not a record that gets you a gold medal, because this record was unemployment claims as reported by the Labor Department for the United States of America. You see, at one of the weeks in October 1982, there were 695,000 unemployment claims during a recession back in the early 80s. Some of you guys might remember that. I have a relatively older audience. Last week, the number of people claiming unemployment in America was 3.28 million. That is nearly 5 times more people claiming unemployment, almost certainly to do with what's going on right now, than we have seen in 40 years, and the last time it happened, there were only a fifth as many claims. I know I'm crypto Jeb and not stock and economics Jeb, but this is very important stuff, and we're going to be tying all of it back into Bitcoin later on in today's video. Speaking of which, there's a reason why I've been sitting so still this entire video. That would be why. I love that sign. Check that out, guys. Perfect. It's right behind my head, so I can just kind of see it when I'm bobbing and weaving. I'm an idiot. I think you guys are going to really enjoy this video. If you do, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really helps out the channel when you do that. But without much further ado, guys, let's go ahead and dive right on into it. As I said, we're going to be tying all of this back into Bitcoin later on, but I want to go ahead and jump on over to this article by CNBC, which goes ahead and highlights exactly what we're talking about here. Jobless claims soar past 3 million to all-time record high. The number shatters the Great Recession peak of 665,000 in March of 2009 and the all-time mark of 695,000 in October of 1982. Claims have been expected to hit a record 1.5 million for the week, according to economists surveyed by Dow Jones. Americans displaced by the news filed unemployment claims in record numbers last week, while the Labor Department reporting Thursday a surge of 3.28 million. And here's the graph of the last 40 years. That's a little sobering. Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's simply a fact that we're still at the beginning of what's going on right now, and those kind of numbers may be temporary because those people that claimed unemployment may have actually gotten their unemployment and they won't show up in the numbers again, but the fact of the matter is there's between 160 and 200 million working Americans, and over 1% of them just filed for unemployment in a week. And there's many people that when they lose their jobs, they don't file for unemployment. They just have savings and they look for another job, so they don't even show up in that statistic. This is turning into one of the biggest economic catastrophes that we've seen in at least 10 years, going back to the Great Recession, and possibly since much longer ago than that. The question now isn't really how bad is this going to get. We know it's going to get very bad. The question is, how long is it going to last, and what is the world going to look like after it's over? And that's where I want to go with this video, guys. I want to talk about how bad I think this is going to get, and I want to tell you where I think this is heading when it does eventually come to its conclusion. Because that number right there is just one of many recent reminders of how badly the economy is hurting right now because of the response to what's going on. There is a little bit of good news. On Bitcoin, as you can see, we are continuing to bounce off of the 200 weekly simple moving average. That is obviously a very good thing. The bad news is that that bounce does not have a whole lot of momentum. In fact, I don't see it continuing for a whole heck of a lot longer as what's going on right now continues to progress. Bitcoin has been rallying here for the last week and a half or so following the apocalypse over here, but this right here, is that going to last? I don't think so. We've put in resistance right around $6,900. If we break that, then good, we can continue to the upside, but for right now, guys, I need you to understand that we are in a rising trading channel, which constitutes a bear flag because of the movement that immediately preceded it. If anything, I definitely see Bitcoin returning to the 200 weekly simple moving average here in the next couple of weeks. But guys, at the end of the day, there's not a whole lot that I really need to discuss on technicals on Bitcoin and stock markets and everything right now. At the end of the day, they're really kind of irrelevant. Bitcoin back there, it just isn't really responding to technicals right now. What's going on is fundamental, having to do with the news and the ever-evolving state of the global economy. I mean, every single industry is in a huge pickle right now. Ask the airlines, ask the restaurateurs, ask anyone. It's bad, and it's very difficult for new technologies like Bitcoin to grow in such a damaged and brittle economy like the one that we are currently living through. But that's not to say to run away from Bitcoin. In fact, I'd say quite the opposite. Now is the time to be looking at Bitcoin even closer than ever, because as you saw just a couple of weeks ago, Bitcoin has the ability to fall back below $4,000, if only temporarily. If that happens again, we need to remember Bitcoin fell down to $3,900 and rallied back up to $7,000. That's a big gain. We might not see the same thing happen in as quick of a time period next time. But if Bitcoin does fall back down below there, I want you guys to remember where the all-time high is, where recent highs are, up at $10, $11, $13, $14, $15,000. Bitcoin can go to those levels, especially after the economy rebounds, because I think we are going to rebound pretty strongly. Maybe not quite to where we were, but I think once this is over and said and done with, the economy is going to come back in a pretty big way and is going to result in a major bounce on Bitcoin, especially as that halving is coming up in a couple of months. All of that to say, right now, I'm being very careful of trading Bitcoin. In fact, I'm not trading Bitcoin. I'm looking for investments in Bitcoin, and right now, I think that we're going even lower. I might be wrong on that. Maybe I am. We shall see. Let's go ahead and move on to some stock market news and some more fundamentals, because, like I said, it's extremely important that you guys are familiar with what's going on in that landscape right now, as well as just crypto. This is interesting, something that CNBC says here. Despite the news being even worse than predicted, the MAJ, or stock indexes, opened more than 2% higher, wiping out what had been sharp earlier losses. Even CNBC isn't immune, pun intended, for typos. As you can see, the Dow Jones, and as I'm about to show you also, the SPY, have actually bounced pretty substantially. This is not anything to write off. The S&P 500 ETF Trust has already bounced 20%, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average has bounced roughly 20% as well in the span of a little over 3 days. You just don't really see bounces of that magnitude happen in stock markets. What's important to notice also here, guys, are the moving averages on these stocks. As you can see, we've had two bearish crosses here on the daily chart for the DJI, the 50 crossing below the 100 and the 200, like I said, on the daily. And out on the weekly chart, they are starting to curve down, but of course, this has been such a quick move that it hasn't happened yet. I'm going to be looking at these indexes over the next couple of months to see whether or not these moving averages, the 100 and the 50, cross below the 200 on the Dow Jones Industrial Average and on the SPY. Because as you'll see in history, the only time that bearish crosses like that and death crosses like that have happened in traditional finance markets are during major recessions and economic downturns, as we saw in 2000, 2001, following 9/11, and then 2008 and 9 during the Great Recession. Guys, like I said, the question right now is not whether or not this is going to be bad. It's going to be bad. The question is really, what kind of lasting impacts is this going to have on our global economy? Is this going to cause hyperinflation in one of the big fiat currencies? Is this going to cause the failing of certain institutions, like some of the banks, or maybe a lot of the big airlines are going to go out of business? What kind of scars are going to be left on our economy because of this? That is the question to ask, because a year from now, everything that's going on today is not going to matter all that much as far as the economics are concerned, of course, but the long-term fallout from companies going bankrupt and jobs being lost permanently, that is what I'm interested in, and that's what we're going to be talking about here over the next several weeks as this crisis continues. I'm going to continue making videos every single day as long as I can. But before I wrap up, there is just one more thing I want to say, and that is it's a piece of advice that I give to a lot of people, and it's when something bad is happening, and there's no doubt this is bad. It's probably, I mean, it's definitely the worst thing that's happened this entire decade. It's a young decade. When something bad happens, it's not normally a good idea to let your emotions run rampant and for it to just cause you to go into a terrible emotional state. What's better is to try and, take charge of those emotions and not let them get out of hand in the first place, but then use the things that you learned in that crisis or in that bad time, such that the next time that something like this happens, because unfortunately there will be a next time, you're more prepared for it. The point I want to make here is that if you had a lot of money in savings before this, good, you're probably going to need it. I know I do, and I'm very blessed for that, and I'm glad I made those good financial decisions early on. But if you're not in that position, it might be difficult, but look, that's what community's for, that's what friends and family are for, and it's also why you learn lessons like this so that it doesn't happen in the future. I just dropped something. I'm not talking down to anyone. I'm just saying that I want you guys going into what is about to happen here with a lens of learning and education and self-improvement, not a lens of, well, crap, the whole world just ended, because the world didn't just end. Everything's going to be just fine. We just need to continue working through it and learning from it, and we'll all come out the other side better than we have ever been. But guys, I love that sign so much. That is going to wrap it out for today's video. Before I go, though, I do first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
Oh, I got a real good feeling.